We are joined now by Republican Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina. He is here because he's the author of a new book. It's called America, a Redemption Story. Senator, good morning.
Thank you.
The book right here. It's a good read. I think it's going to connect with a lot of people. It's got 2 chapters on the former president, President Trump. You clearly have a good relationship with him. He's very nice to your mom.
Yes.
But we're at this extraordinary moment in American history where that former president is the subject of multiple investigations, and his home was searched by the FBI overnight. So I have to put the question to you. Do you still feel that he is the best representative of the Republican Party?
Certainly is the largest voice in American politics, period, Republican or Democrat, and it looks like he'll continue to be. The more focus you put on him, the more likely the supporters will rally around him. There is a huge divide in our country.
But wait a second, before you go, Senator, that wasn't the question.
You said largest, which is
largest voice.
Objectively true, right? He won a straw poll.
But do you still think
best representation?
Yes.
Well, I mean, the good news is I get the answer to the question, how I see that question. But the truth is that he is, without any question, the most powerful voice in all of politics. And that's why so many people, left and right, continue to focus on President Trump.
Yeah, but why this is such a dangerous moment in our history, and a lot of people pointed this out, is because we are divided. There are wings of our government that are supposed to be nonpartisan, but now seem to be politicized. And one of those wings is the FBI. So do you think the FBI, do you still believe and trust in the FBI to do its job, even with a former president, in a nonpartisan way? Or do you believe, as the former president says, that the FBI is executing a witch hunt?
Well, we've had the FBI before, the Judiciary Committee, just in the last 2 weeks, trying to figure out why they do what they do. And there's been lots of questions before this raid about whether or not the FBI is doing their job apolitical. And we don't know the answer to that question yet. This is probably
doubts about the FBI.
This is going to raise more questions, in my opinion. We need to let this play out and see exactly what happens, but we should all have been stunned and surprised and shocked at what happened yesterday. The real question is, A, what is the Federal Records Act? And B, what are we talking about? It has to be something of incredible magnitude for at least my side of the aisle to say that was warranted. Without that, I think we're going to find ourselves in a very big mess as it relates to the credibility of the FBI.
Well, so you don't have any concern that they're going to find anything at the Mar-a-Lago?
Well, I think we should really, as opposed to rushing to judgment, the most important thing that we can do is let it play out, because I have no idea what they were looking for, and I don't think anybody knows what they were looking for.
On that point, I think it's interesting that as you sit before us today, you are not saying that former President Trump is the best representative of the Republican Party, and you're also not saying, don't worry, America, you can trust the FBI.
Well, I think that I am saying that I love my new book, and I'm having a conversation about why I'm giving second chances.
FBI Director Chris Wray was appointed by Donald Trump. We should point that out, too. But in your book, you say, when it comes to President Trump, rather than try to soften his hard edges, you found it best to learn to utilize them. And on January 6th, you said it was a tragic day, a culmination of individuals making bad choices. You do not hold Donald Trump, in the book anyway, accountable for what happened January 6th.
Well, Gayle, one of the reasons why your viewers would want to buy the book is to get that behind-the-scenes view of what actually happened at the Capitol, as opposed to just hearing the media's account for it, which most were not inside the United States Capitol. I was. We can walk through how it feels to be hunted. You walk through rolling your sleeves up, taking your tie off, and literally asking yourself, what weapon can I find to defend myself until I die?
You talked about having
I had a pen in my hand, absolutely.
You talked about actually calming everybody down and say, look, everybody, let's just take a second. But I want to go back to Donald Trump's role in it for just a second. He has taken no responsibility for it. On January 6th, you heard from rioters who said, look, we went because he asked us to. We were there because he called us there. Doesn't the president don't his words have power? And shouldn't he be more careful with his words?
Yes.
He was encouraging people that he knew were armed.
Well, I don't know that anyone knows that the crowd was armed when the call to come to the Capitol was put out there, number one. Number two, I would say this, though. Every person has the responsibility of taking fully the decisions that they make and be responsible for those decisions. I think giving that to anybody other than the individual is giving the individual a pass.
But doesn't the president have responsibility too, Senator?
Oh, of course.
Some would say the most responsibility.
I would say that we all have the most responsibility for our own words. This is easy for us to put the blame on someone else.
Right.
But as the guy that felt hunted in the moment and watching my Senate colleagues look for a route to escape, one of the things you'll see in the book is how important it is in the middle of a chaotic situation to find peace, clarity, and then be decisive in going back out same evening.
It sounded terrifying.
Make the decision.
Can I talk about chapter 5 in the book? Because the headline is Tim Scott for President. I go, he's getting ready to tell us something. Tim Scott for President, the beginning of chapter 5.
Right.
And then you go on to say it's for president of your high school. Tim Scott for president. Tim Scott for president.
Yes.
Then you go on to talk about it was a campaign that you ran. But it does raise a question. Many people think when you're writing a book like this,
Yes.
it's because you are thinking about running for president.
Certainly reads that way.
And your publisher apparently thought,
Yeah.
this guy's running for president because they wrote it in the front of the book in a message.
It was-
talk
it
to
was
us. Talk to
accidental.
us.
Let me share.
Break it down for us.
Let me break it out right here for you. This is breaking news. Please listen carefully.
Okay, we're listening.
If you're going to run for president, you don't say in your book, according to my publishers, 2022.
That's right. They did make a typo error.
I failed
there.
civics, but even I got that part right. There's no presidential election in 2022. There is, however, a re-election campaign in 2022, and I am a part of that. So I'm looking forward to representing the people in South Carolina for hopefully the next 6 years.
I know, and you love South Carolina, blah,
I do
blah,
love South
blah.
Carolina.
The people
But you
that
love
care,
South
blah, blah,
Carolina
blah.
too,
We all
Gayle.
understand that. But what would it take for you to consider a run for president? Do you think you would bring something to the table that maybe other candidates don't have at this point?
I certainly believe that my best objective today is to make sure that I'm as successful as possible in my reelection. And as a part of my reelection strategy, it is to make sure that the voters and the constituents of South Carolina, whether you vote for me or not, see me as your United States Senator. Ultimately, you should not worry about what's next if you haven't finished what's now.
Right. Right. Now, this book is titled America, a Redemption Story.
Yes, sir.
This is a great country, but we've had some dark times.
Absolutely.
Where are we in our redemption journey as a country?
Yeah, thank God we're on the right path. And the last 50 years have been the best 50 years in this America's history. Think about the fact that we've suffered through a civil war. We had the Jim Crow South. My grandfather was born in 1921, and I talk a lot about his journey in the book. We also had the 1960s. We had the challenges in the 70s. We had Rodney King in the 90s. Comparatively speaking, we are in a far better position than we have been. We are not finished yet with the journey. There is much
Got a long way to go.
to do, without any question. But listen, we're also celebrating the fact that 3 out of 4 on this stage right now are of African Americans. We're talking about the fact that we've had an African American president, African American vice president. We've had a chief of staff who was an African American. We've had more success in the last 50 years than we had the first 190 combined. And so we should continue to focus on what needs to be done while celebrating
What has been done?
what we've already accomplished
And as you
together.
point out, the American dream is never realized overnight, not an event, but a way of life. One of the many good lines in this book. Senator Scott, thank you very much for being here. The book is America, a Redemption Story, and it is on sale right now.
Choosing Hope, Creating Unity.
Yes.
Yes,
All right.
there's two subtitles.
Thank you, Senator
presidential.
Scott. Thank you very much.